What is going on, everybody? And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the technique of the world's fastest boat ever in the world of the universe, the German Men's 8. I think they did the time in like 2017 or something like that. 5:18, so the fastest boat ever, rowing boat. And we will be doing so in a way, hopefully, that you'll be able to understand it. And you'll have some actionable pieces of advice that you can implement into your stroke so that you can go faster. For those that are new here, my name is Jack Burns. I'm the founder of Edge Rowing, where we work with busy professionals, getting them rowing to the best versions of themselves. Righty-ho, let's get to it. So actually, before I got started, before I started this video, I normally kind of like watch the footage for a few minutes and kind of get an idea of what I want to say. I was just looking at the technique and the catch in particular, and just finding it relatively, I think, interesting. So I just wanted to make sure I'm using the HD camera. I couldn't tell when it was like this small, so I had to go whoa to check. Anyways, yeah, I had to look at this footage a few times because it just looks like there's kind of a few different things going on throughout the crew. But anyways, let's talk about what I think they all do well to start off with. Now, they all drive very, very horizontally. So especially in the heavyweights crews, especially in men's heavyweight crews, where I think rowers will rely more on power, you will see a higher hand lift. This is some good footage as well, by the way. I could download it in HD. Sometimes it doesn't let me do it. I can really scroll frame by frame. It's so much easier to coach with. Anyways, often you get heavyweight crews and they will dig the oar shaft in really deep, and you'll get a lot of splash. And the hands will go up pretty high. But this crew, I think, one thing that they do really, really well is drive horizontally. So they put the spoon in and no more. And they maintain that depth all the way through. And there are people that would disagree and say that you don't want that, because what you can also see is there's a bit more kind of like white water air behind the spoon because they're relatively shallow. So you don't always want to be shallow with your spoon because it means that you don't get as much grip and connection. But to me, they look really connected. They look like they've got a good suspension. And one of the advantages of this is it makes it a lot easier to take the blade out when you get to the finish. Because think about if you're pulling through here or you're pulling through up here, you've got a lot less room to take the blade out, or you've got less movement to do to take the blade out compared to if you're coming up here and then down there. And I always say this when we're coaching: good rowing is about doing as little as possible and minimizing the amount of extra movement that goes on in your body. And if you have a big tap down that is required, then you're just more movement, more energy, makes it harder to stay still. It makes it harder to stay relaxed. And you start moving around more, you start wasting energy, you increase your tension, you don't move effectively. And it's the same with the catch as well. When they go to the front, it's not as much of a hand movement to put the blade in. What I would say, okay, they have a really nice clean extraction as well, and I think this is helped by the fact that they're driving horizontally. They're not pulling in too high, so it's quite easy for them to pop the blade out there, and you see the whole crew gets a good amount of daylight underneath the spoon when they pop the blade out. And again, if you followed my videos for a while, you'll know I talk a lot about keeping your hands low and then lifting them at the front, and it just allows you to square early and then lift directly. And it's something that a lot of people don't do because you make the boat more unstable, and people don't like unstable boats. But an unstable boat isn't necessarily a slow boat. You can still go pretty quick with an unstable boat. But anyways, yeah, a nice shape here. The one thing I would say is they kind of let like really nice hand path here down with the hands. It's really nice hand path when they go down. And then they keep their hands low. But then as they come through here, oh shit, that's square. They keep their hands low like that. But then what they do is they kind of go back up with the hands. The blades go closer to the water. And then they have to like readjust again. So that was just one thing I saw from a few of them that they were doing. I think this guy, god damn it, 6 feet. He could probably tap down more if you ask me. He keeps his hands a little bit too high. And you can see, like, actually, it's maybe a good example. You can see everybody else. Their spoons are a good bit higher. His is kind of quite close to the water. The hands are quite high here. When he goes to the catch, he has to go down and then back up, whereas everybody just has to go up. So a good example there of the contrast. And yeah, you can see a bit relatively late. Now this kind of gets into the point, especially compared to Balfour. The point I wanted to make about the video is when we talk about the catch, we believe that now there's two ways that you can put the blade in. Both of them work. One is easier to do, especially for amateurs who aren't going out for 20k paddles twice a day where they can practice this. But what I think you should do at the catch is lift your hands straight up. Hold on, we'll get the permanent pen on. Lift your hands straight up so that the blade goes straight in. We'll do it with the same person. Straight up with the hands so that the blade goes straight in like that. And when you've got water running underneath you, it's impossible to do that straight up and down lift without creating backsplash. So normally in most things, you don't look for the outcome. You want to do the process right and then get the outcome. In the case of the catch, I have found that you can get the outcome, which is create backsplash, look for backsplash, force backsplash, and as a result, you'll be lifting your hands in the right way. People don't do this because it feels counterintuitive. It almost feels like you're backing the blade in. But if you do that, it will slow the boat down when you first start doing it. It'll feel awkward. It'll feel mechanical. But as you get better, you'll be able to do it more relaxed. You'll be able to do it more loose. You'll minimize the amount of damage you're doing at the front, and then you will get better connection. And when you push with better connection, you're going to push the boat in that direction rather than kicking on it in the opposite direction. So that's the first way. The first way is back. Oh shit. I give up. Anyways, so that's the first thing. The interesting thing about this crew, I'll explain the second way. So the second way is bringing the blade in with the run of the water. So the water is going that way, and rather than lifting straight up, you almost bring the blade in that direction so that your hands, rather than going straight up, they kind of go in that motion. Now, the pro to this is you're not creating backsplash, so there's not that tiny amount of resistance from the oar, but you are going in that direction. You're going that way when you've not got this locked into the water. You're kind of moving in that direction without a connection. So what you're effectively doing is you're pushing the stern when you're not locked in here. And when you push on the stern, when you're not locked in, you send the stern in that direction. Like imagine there was no rowers in this boat and you just were like sat here and you just like had a big stick and you just pushed it that way. The boat would go that way, unsurprisingly. I don't think that required an explanation. Interesting thing about this crew is bow 4 are doing the first catch, the thing that I think you should do, and stern 4 are not. especially stroke seat. Hannes Obreno. He followed and unfollowed me about 18 times. He was one of those people, if people remember when people used to do that. But yeah, anyways, he comes in with the blade like that. You see there's a bit of body movement back to bring the blade in. But if we look at these guys, oh, sorry, this guy as well. They lift the spoon and then they push. It's a lift. This, I think 4-seat does this the best, if you ask me. Lifts and then he pushes. Once he's got connection, he starts to push. Okay, it's never going to be a perfect balance, but whereas stroke seat doesn't. So I'm wondering if this is intentional, if this is what the coach told them to do. If they said, bow for your job. I've heard this from bow pair, is that bow pair should think about getting their catch in a little bit earlier and getting more connection for the rest of the crew so they can just focus on pushing. Maybe they told bow 4 to do this, and then stern 4 can just focus on working. I don't know. I think the whole crew should do it, if you ask me. But the other kind of weird thing about this crew is, technically, I just think technically bow 4 are a lot better than stern 4. Like, they're obviously still great, okay? They're obviously still like the fastest crew ever, so they're doing something right. But just comparatively, 7-seat. I always thought this was 7-seat when I remember watching this crew. I don't mean to pick on the athletes too much. They bring their own unique thing, but 7-seat, generally you put in someone who can follow 7-seat stroke seat really, really well and help set up a rhythm and not be put off by what kind of bow 6 are doing. But 7-seat here, for example, he kind of leans forward low, and then the first thing he does to get out is the seat almost doesn't move and the body just opens pretty much right away. And I know that was an old German style, but I don't see any of the Germans doing that anymore. And then he kind of holds, and then almost brings in the hands early. And it's like his hands, he's kind of like half or like 2/3 done the arm bend, whereas everybody else is still just about to kind of bring in their arms. If we look here, again, there's much more hang going on into the bows, but interesting. Obviously, it friggin' worked for them, so that's always the fun part. If we fully understood everything about fast crews, then it would be boring. It would be a sad day if we found that out. So sometimes you just move the crew around and it goes really quick and no one can explain it. Sometimes there's just a specific reason. I just don't know what the specific reason is for this crew of this organization. Anyways, I think that covers it. There's obviously loads of other stuff that they do, but these are the main ones. If you found this video useful, then consider liking the video and subscribing. If you didn't like this video, then dislike it. If you're already subscribed and you didn't like the video, then unsubscribe. And yeah, you know the drill by now. The regulars know the drill. One day I'm going to run out of stuff. To do this with. But if you made it this far in the video, comment. I've got a good one today for you. Bet you can't guess what this is. Comment. Comment neck rest. Okay. Right, I'm going to go and have a nap. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one.